We cannot protect children if the health system cannot talk to the education system. If the education system cannot talk to the child protection system within social development, but also cannot talk to the police system. So all this need to work together. We cannot have someone that was found to be abusing or creating content of child porn, that person having a child and falling pregnant, and is not triggering somewhere to say be careful of this person because they have done that before. And then when a child who's supposed to be on ECD is not at school.
And I had to look at the statistics of corruption levels as well, and how that ultimately affects the care and the education we afford children. And I was asked, first I want to address that and the statistics on that, which will tie in with some of what she says. And then I want to look at the critical healing modalities that can be taught at early childhood development phase to assist children to self-regulate and to deal with the reality of abuse better. So when we look at South Africa per se, we must remember that 43% of all households in South Africa are led by women. They're either divorced or they're taking care of families. 43%. Then you add the 8.9% of youth-led households. That means more than 51% of households in this country does not have a male figure.
My name is Murendeni. Today it's our podcast where we are evaluating the effectiveness when it comes to the initiatives of child protection that different organizations, departments, institutions are doing out there. Are the initiatives speaking to each other? Are we winning the battle when it comes to issue of child protection? Is there anything that is so urgent that we really need to consider? So I've got a panel of very special guests who are very instrumental in their respective capacity, and also they are very passionate about the issue of child protection. We've got our acting CEO, Advocate Makhosazana. We've got Doc Clason, who is very passionate about child protection from the University of Pretoria. Francesca, your CV can take us the whole day, but I'll just say the CEO, the founder of WIN Foundation, which is very instrumental because she's an activist when it comes to women and child protection. I've got our doc, Spahoma, who is also very instrumental. He's been there in the ground. He is now on academia, and I do believe that the curriculum, be it at the university level, be it at the high school level, be it at the primary level, because some of the information is very important for children as young as those who are doing grade R, grade 1 and 2, they need to start knowing how they can keep themselves safe on the online space. Even when they are given these devices on their own, they should actually remind even their parent to say, no, mommy, daddy, I can't access this because the age rating is way above me. So in other words, the conversation needs to start at that very same earlier age. So we have our doc who is very experienced and instrumental in this. So I've got a panel rich in terms of child protection experience. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming in here. I believe that we're going to have a very fruitful discussion and also a continuous engagement in terms of how best we improve. What we will speak about today also there might be a need for us to speak more about it in the near future. So as I've indicated, it's not the first of so many, it is just the first of so other more improved initiative that we are going to be having with you guys. And yeah, let's kickstart with our very special edition, which is one of our very most historic podcasts that will go a long way, because obviously we are to get the general members of the public to start the discussion about child protection. Are we winning on the battle? Or indeed there are any other area of improvement that we also need to pay much attention to. The good part about it all is that we as an organization, we agree that on our own we cannot win the battle. That is why the issue of collaboration comes in, because we know one institution cannot do it all. But at the end of the day, we also very mindful of the fact that when we are busy with our different programs in our different area of speciality and all that, we might actually have identified certain gaps that another institution might not have. So when we bring you guys all together in the same room, it is easier to have a very fruitful conversation about that. But I will start with our advocate, our acting CEO, just to take us through in brief what the FPB is all about, our legislative framework in terms of the protection of children. Indeed, our initiatives, are they yielding any results from the organization perspective? Are we picking up on any other trends that are of great interest that she would like to share also with the panel and general members of the public out there, so that the discussion becomes a continuous? Remember, Child Protection Week is a week, but at the end of the day, the protection of children is a lifetime journey that we cannot actually drop it and wait for another year to commemorate on the stated date. So it's a continuous 365 days on the protection of children. So CEO, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moridile. As the Film and Publication Board, we are a regulator that is created in terms of the Films and Publications Act. I know that previously, before the Democratic South Africa, we were known as a censorship board that censors information, but with the dawn of democracy, our role has changed. More importantly, with the Constitution, we are there to ensure that members of the public are able to exercise their rights to freedom of expression. But ours is to ensure that we balance that right with the protection of children against harm. So as you express yourself online or through creativity, but you have to ensure that that content is not harmful. So that is why the FPB exists. So we really regulate the creation, the production, and also distribution of films and games and certain publications. And at the core of that, it's about ensuring that children are not exposed to premature exposure to adult experiences. I think that is at the core. And how are we doing that? We're doing that through our classification. So when you look at the age ratings have a meaning to ensure that children are protected. So protection doesn't just start from their rights that are included in the Constitution, Section 28, but it also includes how the environment at home is actually enabling children to exercise their rights and protect them from harmful content. So that is where the FPB comes in with our age ratings. We are able to inform parents that this content has horror, the content has violence, then it means you cannot expose children to violence. Then the importance of ensuring that as parents, as you are parenting, which is your responsibility in terms of the Constitution, and it is the children's right for an appropriate parenting, that you make them watch proper content, not content that is harmful. Then secondly, our act is very clear now in terms of the ensuring that children are not used in pornographic material. I know worldwide what we see again as a trend is that in terms of our legislation in the country, we are behind because we still use the word pornography. However, when you look across the globe, the term is actually child sexual abuse material. So that is actually an appropriate content, because immediately you use the word pornography, the implication is that one would have consented, and a child is someone below the age of 18 and cannot really consent to such action, and that is the work of the FPB. So what we see now through our work is that parents are still not aware of the age rating. They continue to expose children in that content, and that is where we come in through our education and awareness. But with the change now in terms of how content has been consumed, our mandate has now changed. We are given authority now to also regulate online content, and that is the work that we do as the FPB. So what we see that parents are not informed in terms of technology and ensuring that they are able to proper parent their children in how they use technology. Children are given gadgets, but parents should be there to ensure that they parent. There is the African saying that it takes a village to raise a child. However, at this stage now, the village, it's global. Then it means now they get exposed again to the values of other countries and through technology. So we continue to see cases, especially of CSAM. We have a dedicated team of child protection practitioners. We have a dedicated team of platform monitors that on a daily basis they are monitoring the internet. And we do see cases of child grooming, cases of child sexual abuse material, where we work together with the SAPS, and the team do the analysis of that content, and it gets presented as evidence in a court of law. So the important thing that is critical as we are honoring the Child Protection Week, it's about empowering parents to know that they have to watch what their kids are doing online, because that's where cyber grooming starts in, because they're engaging with individuals who might pretend to be minors, whereas these are individuals who are not minors. Through social media platforms and also through the gaming, we regulate also games. So that is why it's important, again, when it comes to games, that parents, again, they ensure that children watch, they play age-appropriate games. But also there are risks also in some of those online games where you will find that pedophiles also infiltrate that system. So these are the trends that we see as FPB, but more importantly, as a regulator, where there's a harmful content, especially that is posted online, especially cyberbullying, we engage with schools. Our advocacy team work closely with parents and also schools. So we get to see that the extent of cyberbullying in schools. And as FPB, we educate teachers, we educate parents, we also educate children in terms of how they're supposed to conduct themselves online. But more importantly, it doesn't end there. We have powers in the legislation that if one is really posting a harmful content, you can report those to the Film and Publication Board. And in terms of the powers that are vested in us, we can investigate and especially your cyberbullying, and take those matters to the Enforcement Committee, which is a quasi-judicial body. But the cases of child sexual abuse material, those are criminal acts, and they have to be reported to the police. So that these are the mechanisms that we have as a regulator, and over and above that, we do have powers to actually take down harmful content. So this is the power that is vested in us, so we can approach a social media platform for them to take down the harmful and prohibited content. And at an international front, we are members of InHope, which is an association for internet hotline providers. So we work with the hotlines, and we have a mechanism. There is a system, a database, ICCAM, where all cases of CSAM, different websites that have harmful child sexual abuse material, is actually shared among the members. And we are able to investigate as FPB if the website is within the Republic, working closely also with the police and the National Prosecuting Authority to ensure that we analyze that content and make sure that perpetrators are brought to book. I think that is the beauty of the powers that we have. Yes, we are making the impact as an organization, but we're not where we want to see ourselves. We have 9 provinces in the country with limited resources. Then that is where partnerships comes in, because we need to work with the academia. Academia is actually important for us as a regulator, because we need to do, we need to have evidence-based regulatory action also. So which means research plays a key role, and that is why partnership also with academia becomes important to actually make us an effective regulator. But at the minimum, we can say we are doing well because we continue to educate members of the public, and we have stats of cases where perpetrators of child pornography were actually prosecuted. So we are making progress, but we still have to do more, especially in providing education. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed, acting CEO. The discussion point that we have just covered is very critical. It's very shocking as to the level of technology advance that we are seeing every now and then. Our children having access to all these gadgets unmonitored. I can just imagine how many of them are having those unlimited access. I remember sometimes we get home, we are tired, we don't want to take care of them, we just give them our gadgets, our laptop, you can play your favorite game and all that, and we don't even necessarily follow through as to what is it that our children are having access to. And one more thing is that even if we are to say we have installed those filtering software, our children are very technological smart. They can actually override that within a second or so. ChatGPT will tell them how to go about this. But yes, indeed, thank you so much, Acting CEO, for that. Dr. Claassen, I won't be specific in terms of what I will ask. I will just say, on the academia space, what is happening? What are the trends? And how can we better collaborate in terms of research initiatives so that indeed we do the impact-driven actions compared to just observing the weak or the name-calling child protection initiatives. So we want to address something that, what are we addressing, so that it can be easier for us to also measure if we are getting closer, if we are getting far ahead, or if we are moving on the other side, of which we do not want to do that. So Dr. Claassen, just come in and share what the academia space is saying with regard to online safety, digital space. I know that you are so passionate about it, and obviously you focus on that even at the university. So I will allow you to come in, Doc.
Thank you, Murendeni. So I think what's very important is to realize, just as you shared, that the world is changing, and this online world that was added actually changes the whole profession of social work. So even as an academic in social work, life is changing. How we prepare our undergraduate social workers, but also how we do research and where we do research. So personally, I've got many postgrad students doing research on the online world and what is changing, and how are we making sure that what we provide services to is speaking to the world of digital era. So it's interesting, some of the statistics, I've written them down. 70% of children use the internet without parental consent. 70%. 25% have shared have friends on their list that they don't have ever met face to face. 25% of a friend list. The statistics say that 15% have sent photos of themselves to unknown persons on their friends list. 67% of children have encountered sexual imagery online. So what we see is definitely saying what your board is doing is relevant. And that, I think, today for me personally is saying what you're doing is relevant, but I also believe what we as an academic institution is doing is relevant. We're looking into this digital world and we're trying to navigate parents, we're trying to navigate children to realize that what you do online matters. So even our students are prepared to address child protection in a total different context. I think the world is changing, and a conversation like today, I think, is so relevant to what our country is facing that I want to salute you, to really say thank you for what you're doing, and collaborating with you on research. Most definitely the answer is yes, because I think we have to really make sure that our response speaks to the context that we face in communities. And from an academic point of view, we say we want to work with you.
Thank you so much, Doc. Dr. Spalm, I know that you are very passionate about child protection. You can wake up at any hour whenever there is a need for you to go out there to protect a child out there. You have been in the ground, you have for a number of years in private practice, you know about all these trends. And I'm happy because at the end of the day, after witnessing what you have witnessed in the communities out there, being a social worker, being in private practice, meeting with children themselves, child participation is something that I know that you are so very good at. But at this point in time, I want to say, when you combine the experience that you have attained from the ground, moving to the academic space, are they aligning? What we learn at the institution of higher learning, when our social service professionals go out there, are they ready to tackle the issue that we are currently confronted with, especially when it comes to online safety for children? I remember the curriculum that I did some 10 or 15 years ago speak about child protection in general. But now you can see that things have moved. Abductors will not go and wait for your child at the school gate, abduct them. Abductors will not go and wait for them in the community. It's a matter of text away, and they are in conversation, they discuss, they even plan to meet in our own household. It is not happening when we are out there, where we will say, oh, okay, when we're at home, no, we know that we'll take care of our children, we'll drop them at school, we'll pick them up later on, and they associate. It is happening in our present when we're sitting with them. They are on their gadget, speaking to the strangers. So, Doc, I know that you've got much to say about this, and you can come into this conversation. Doc.
No, thank you again for the opportunity, and also thanks to the Film and Publication Board for the initiative through your CEO and the board itself. Look, one of the challenges that we have is people thinking that education is static, and education evolves. The Department of Higher Education, through the forum that deals with higher education, time and again wants us to relook at our curriculum to make sure that it addresses the current matters, especially in line with the world that we are living in. And that is why time and again universities will have to change the syllabus to make sure that it addresses the matters that relate to what society is facing. So even within our profession, in the context of even social work and many other professions, we encourage continual development so that those that are working within the fields are able to understand the latest trends. So there's still a lot that needs to be done, especially on issues of how our children relate with the social media. And also one of the things that has been mentioned is the role of parents, because we understand very well that a child cannot make certain decisions. So the parent plays a vital role. And what I have observed on the ground is that many parents are not aware of their role in making sure that they protect children. And also with every advert from the days I was young, I could see that there is always a sign on any movie that will show that this is rated this much. But there's lack of understanding on the impact. They see it as just a compliance, but they will sit with children until late. We are just in the month of June in South Africa, and it's about to be school holidays. And children will be sleeping late and watching content that some of the parents will be sleeping and will not be able to monitor. Now we've got television and what you can watch on television, but now also there is an evolvement of where these things have evolved. The smartphones have become a powerful and important tool in the hands of the children, but not only keeping the children and the parents busy, but also perpetrators have seen an opportunity. Something that is published in Asia can easily be podcasted in South Africa through items like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and many others that are being developed. So it's quite important that we educate, especially from child protection practitioners. We educate not only parents, teachers at school. ECD practitioners need to understand this. Why are we putting measures in place is to protect the mind of a child, because if abuse happened to a child at an early age, maybe for the first 18 years, the child might not see the impact. Only when they are adults, we see the cost of abuse, especially on adults, and they are likely to repeat it also to other children. So it's quite important that we educate, and let's understand when we change syllabus, when the Department of Education says to us, we are going to stop this course until you evolve and make sure that it addresses the needs. Those are some of the things that within education we do, but within within communities, let's work with tribal leaders, the tribal authorities, our traditional leaders. Let's work with religious institutions. Let's work with traditional practitioners, whether be in those that are practicing traditions. Let them understand the impact of child abuse on the society, on the community, or also on the country at large.
Thank you so much, Doc. I am still very alarmed with the statistics that Doc Glassett has actually provided in terms of the activities that are happening online. And thank you so much for coming in. Doc, you have touched on the very critical issue. Francesca, CEO and the founder of WIN Foundation, which I know that you are very passionate about women, children, protection at all spheres. I mean, you've been out there as an activist. I'm so happy to have you today. At what age, indeed, children need to start having this conversation online? And indeed, Doc has spoken about the parental control guidance and all that. Indeed, when it comes to the protection of children, rights of women not violated on the online space, you are very instrumental. You have served in so many organizations, and I can commend you nationally, internationally. You have been there. I believe that you can provide us with a very great input that we can indeed consider when we are having this discussion. So you can come in, Francesca, and just share your insight. How best can we do it indeed during this month where we call the month where the protection of children take a center stage. On the 1st of June, it was an International Children's Day because we recognize the importance of them coming in, their own participation. They said, you cannot protect us without us. So in other words, how do we get into it? How do we synergize our effort in terms of the protection of children, especially when it comes to the online space, Francesca?
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. First of all, I want to start off by saying when we look at online, there's a new layer of online that many people seem to miss. my age and other people, you know, in a certain generational gaps, we haven't even mastered the current technology properly. Now we've got these young children growing up with it. Another concern now is AI. On the 20th of June, I will be attending a conference with the International Chamber of Commerce, which is looking at how business can control the AI. Because sometimes you attend a meeting, somebody is using Reed, somebody is using another AI, and all of a sudden, before you know it, your whole system is now also accessible to Reed and these other AI diversions. So what happens now with children who can freely download AI and make it accessible, even to hide their online footprints maybe from their parents? That is something that is of serious concern. It's also a governmental concern. You know, our government was recently attacked by AI from some hackers. So AI is there to serve humanity. But we often forget that the unscrupulous people also engage AI. So there's a new layer that we have to investigate and look at. Then on the other hand, you know, in the work that I do for Department of Justice, in the Directorate of Vulnerable People, we look there at women and the legislation affecting women and the legislation affecting children. And recently I was asked to present on the African Union Convention on the Violence Against Women and Children. And I am very sober-minded, and I had to look at the statistics of corruption levels as well, and how that ultimately affects the care and the education we afford children. And I was asked, first I want to address that and the statistics on that, which will tie in with some of what she says. And then I want to look at the critical healing modalities that can be taught at early childhood development phase to assist children to self-regulate and to deal with the reality of abuse better. So when we look at South Africa per se, we must remember that 43% of all households in South Africa are led by women. They're either divorced or they're taking care of families. 43%. Then you add the 8.9% of youth-led households. That means more than 51% of households in this country does not have a male figure that is present and sharing the responsibilities. Then we take the other 49%, and 80% of them has got one form or other of abuse. Now, I will need to clarify, every time we speak about domestic violence, everybody thinks it is the physical violence. Emotional violence is equally devastating, if not more. Psychological violence and financial violence. You know, so training children, and I proved that it's in my stats. That could be another conversation, but training children, the basis of economics and understanding how to manage their lives is crucial, because the devastation on productivity later in the lifespan of that child who has not learned to understand the reality of taking care of themselves, a household, and their future children is devastating. And we then see the irresponsible behavior in our youth. Now, when we talk about corruption stats, in last year we had a conference, a corruption, focused on corruption and how to address it at UNISA. We will repeat it in Women's Month this year, because who is mostly affected by corruption? I'm talking about governance, I'm talking about political corruption, every layer of corruption. It's sometimes so subtle you can even find it in schools. We need to really start addressing not only the online morality of humanity, but we need to start aspiring to be better people if we are to change this country moving forward. Last year, the stats wasn't available. I'm going to address the new stats this year in the UNISA conference. But last year, we worked with the 2018 stats of Stats SA when we haven't aggregated the social stats, which is now the new norm within the UN, to bring the formal stats in and aggregate it with the social stats of organizations on the ground and come with a clearer picture of, just Stats SA can provide. So, but let's talk about the Stats SA stats of 2018. 38 billion per annum wasted through corruption at governance level. That's 500,000 RDP houses, 200,000 foundation phase teachers not employed, 25 million South Africans that can be on NHI. Now start thinking, how are we really looking after our children when women who should be having an RDP house does not, and a child must grow up in a shack? When there's load shedding because of corruption and women must walk home in the dark because the street lights are out, their children must walk through the urine in the street because the sewage farm shut down, because those turbines and things and motors have never been designed to go on and off and on and off and on and off. We need to start being realistic in this country. And we need to understand how we as adults ultimately serve our children and serve the legacy of children to come. We're not doing that. And that is my main concern. In 2024, I led the Olifanhoutbosch March at night because women were raped on their way home. They work at Checkers, they work until 7. By the time they need to walk home, it's dark because it's load shedding. The sewage I walked in the sewage. It is time that this country starts to rise. It's time, first of all, that men start working at their relationships and their families. It is time that women understand they have gender rights, but that doesn't mean we need to emasculate men. And I think that takes us back to children. Start with the education at foundation phase. That is where you change a nation. I said that 20 years ago, if we started 20 years ago, we would have been almost done by eradicating this kind of level of behavior for future generations to come. Because in my time, a generation was like every 10, 15 years. It's not. Now, a child in grade 7 and a child in grade 12, they're two different generations. The mindsets and the life and technology and responsibility, life has changed. So literally every 5 years, in an emotional and a psycho-frequential space, there's a new generation. And they've asked me at AU, and there are 6, but I presented on 3. That is something for the future, I think, because they're very intense. But we can bring those technologies into the foundation phase education. They're simple to teach. Somatic movement is simple, but you need to do it right. And it can actually train the body to overcome inverted trauma. And there's other, and you don't need equipment. That is the beauty of it all. There are these technologies, they are psychophysio technologies, and you just need to design a program that is suitable to a school, and you do that for 10 minutes a day with children, and you teach them a method of self-regulation, which then leads to better cognizance for the future. And I'm sorry, we cannot reach that until we address this massive elephant in this country, and that is our levels of corruption. We now I had a conference this morning on illegal immigrants. Sure, they need to respect our law and regulations, but there are also immigrants here that are here legally. We mustn't go crazy. We cannot be seen as xenophobic, because India and all other countries that say we are overburdened and we're now cracking down, they're not being called xenophobic. We need to understand, we need to mold our South African identity, and that we have the right to be sovereign. Every other nation in Africa is sovereign. But we need to set us as adults, as the educators, as the academia, as the film and publication board, we need to start talking real talk. We are so scared to talk to each other. And who is at a loss for it? The next generation. It is our responsibility to step up. I've been dealing with the stats in the Department of Justice about levels of violence, and I'm telling you, a child's safety, a woman's safety, is more a threat in her own home than online. So yes, the online is growing and it's a great concern, but we need to step back, take a deep breath, and consider what it is we're doing. And I would like the Film and Publication Board to start working with people and creating content to help children, but also help the adults to understand what is going on and what their responsibilities are and how they can negate the challenges we're facing. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Yeah, indeed, the topic is becoming more complex. That is why we have seen it as the FPB that is necessary for us to have all of you. Because some of the stats that you are coming with we are not aware of, and indeed it sent a very clear message to say collaboration, collaboration, and collaboration.
Yes.
Dr. Gleason, coming back to you, if I am to make you a president of Children Ministry for a day, what is it that you can do differently? What is the urgent initiative that is needed in order for us to see to it that our children are protected physically, online, and also against their own close proximity? Remember, some of our children are being abused at their own home by people who are supposed to protect them, at school, by the people who are supposed to make sure that they feel safe. I make you president for a day, Dr. Gleason. Where are we going to start?
I think we need to empower our children more. And I think I grew up in a society where children are seen and not heard. And I think we need to change that. We need to listen to our children. We need to let our children have a voice. And I think too many policies are developed for children and not with children. So I'm very much a supporter of bringing children into our picture. And I think children need to be empowered with enough knowledge about their own rights. Children need to be empowered with steps to take. I fully support what Francesca is saying, that it should start young. Our early childhood development focus of our country, I fully support that we should not think it only starts in high school. I think even online safety starts with young children, that they already should know. So personally, I would involve more children, I would listen more to children, and I think our schools have a very, very big role to play, that it should even start in our schools, that our teachers should know. And I think our country has made great strides in terms of corporal punishment being banned. But I do think still in our schools even, our children are not feeling safe. And we should make sure that our children know that's not okay. So I think to give our children more empowering tools, how to speak up, what to do, because child abuse is real and it happens in our homes, as Francesca was saying. There was other stats that I read last night that 1/3 of girls, young girls in our country, are experiencing violence, and mostly violence at home. So the violence within our homes is a great concern. And as the president then, I would say, let's empower our children, that our children know that it's not okay. It's not, we don't want children to grow up in a society thinking violence is part of the picture. We should actually be very outspoken, and children should get that message over and over. I so support what the board is doing, because I think our television, our social media, we all should share the same message, to say that in this country, children should be feeling safe and they should feel protected, and they should feel they have a voice. Children should be heard and seen, and not the other way around. So that's my contribution.
Okay, no, thank you so much, Dr. Gleisen. Dr. Spom, I'm going to come back to you.
Yeah.
There are those national legislative framework, international framework. You've got your UN Convention on the Rights of the Child documents. What I want to check with yourself, Doc, is those tools enough to address the scourge of violence against women and children? Are those documents aligning?
Yes.
Do we need to amend, review some of those documents to align with what is currently happening? Our doc spoke about the world evolving every now and then. It simply means that what has been happening 20 years ago is completely different from what is happening now. If you check when last did we ratify the UN Convention, is some years ago. So do you see the need of us speaking to the legislative framework and relevant documentation that obviously different departments, institutions, organizations, they might actually be relying on in order for them to drive this child protection agenda?
Yeah. Look, I like what the CEO started with, to say that there are certain terms that needs to be changed, as they are changed also internationally. He gave an example of the usage of the word pornography. So those are the kind of things that, as things evolve, we need to start changing them. However, laws are not enough if they don't talk to the people on the ground. People need to see the law working, and laws need to talk to one another. When Dr. Gleisen was speaking, I was thinking that maybe I should be the president of the children as advisor for a day, because, when you're talking about the issue of unprotected borders, can I say that unprotected borders lead to unprotected children? Because when someone is in the country and we don't know who they are, where they come from, and what they've done in their country, it can result in worse things happening. There was a recent case of where South African government worked with Interpol, and they arrested someone right here in Midrand. And actually there were a few cases of people who were creating content on child pornography. And those are the kind of things that you see that the laws are there, and if we start implementing them, they can work in the best interest of the child. And also coming down to our government. Our government, I don't know whether it is, but there's a time where they need to report to the UN about the measures that they are taking to protect children. And that is where you see accountability. My colleague here was talking about the AU as well, where we need to report on what we are doing to protect children. However, coming to the country, we cannot protect children if the health system cannot talk to the education system. If the education system cannot talk to the child protection system within social development, but also cannot talk to the police system. So all this need to work together. We cannot have someone that was found to be abusing or creating content of child porn, that person having a child and falling pregnant, and is not triggering somewhere to say, be careful of this person because they have done that before. And then when a child who's supposed to be on ECD is not at school, and the teacher cannot report somewhere that this child has not been at school, and no one investigate how a child can spend about 2 to 3 weeks not coming to school, or the system cannot report to say, this child was born in 2000 and now it's 2006, they are supposed to be doing grade R or grade 1. Where are they in the system? So all these systems must be able to talk together, and that will give us an opportunity to be able to track what is happening in our country, what is happening to our children. But laws we can pass as many as we want. But if they are not talking to the people on the ground, the people will rebel against the laws that are meant to protect them.
Thank you so much, Doc. Indeed, the conversation is getting more interesting now as to the complexity part of it. And yeah, thank you so much, my guest, for coming through. Advocate, back to you. What needs to happen as a matter of agent? What really needs to happen? As in of yesterday, by the way, the issue of child protection is always an urgent matter. Obviously, each and every day we need to do better than how we have dealt with a very similar or even more complex issues before. What really needs to happen as in of yesterday?
You know what needs to happen, especially within household. You've heard from the guest that we're talking internet. Internet just came now, and abuse follows how content is consumed. So abuse of children is happening within the household. And as parents, as mothers, as uncles, as brothers, as sisters, we need to start speaking up. We shouldn't hide abuse of children. So that is agent. Because abuse is happening and kids are being groomed within the household. And it gets normal and it becomes part of their day-to-day life. And what kind of a generation are we creating? And one of the guests here, Francesca, spoke about the importance, actually in her talking, I've summarized that. She's talking about how different generation changes, how different values within the country system changes. Then what constitutes to that? It's all the issues the speakers have been talking about. We're now living with people from different countries. Then it means the culture of SA also changes. Also with the internet, then it means the culture of SA. I'm sitting here, but as parents, you will know that normally our kids will be watching the cartoons, the CBBS. Then you're realizing the child that is speaking with a British accent. Where is the child getting the accent, but it's from the TV? So as the FPB again, where do we come in? What needs to change? That is why actually every 5 years, our age ratings is through the classification guidelines. We review our guidelines to ensure that they remain relevant and also aligned to what is acceptable within the Republic. But what needs to change agently, I think as parents, we have the responsibility. We really need to delay access to smartphones to our children.
Agree.
We also need to delay children's access to social media. I think we need to be honest. We know there's AI. AI is there. These are the tools that are there. They are important. But we just need to monitor how our children access those. So for me, those are the urgent things that needs to change. And as FPB, we'll continue to educate and empower South Africans.
Thank you so much, Advocate. We really commend the good work that the FPB is doing. And we also commend our guest for being so special in our session today. Thank you guys for coming in. You guys out there, you know that the discussion is not all about the panel. It is about the general members of the public. And we're saying to you, let's continue the conversation. You may actually reach out to our Facebook, Twitter, any platform. Just go into FPB, then it takes you straight to our website. You choose any platform that you feel comfortable, and we engage and have this conversation going forward. So you have actually heard what our panel of specialists have alluded to, and we also want to hear from you, because you are more important to us, and we will appreciate it if we give us more of your thought, where we can also look at, where we can also improve, so that at the end of the day, as I've indicated, it's a continuous conversation, so it doesn't end here. So what you will be engaging us on, we will indeed also be engaging back to you, and the conversation is continuous. It's not only for this month, it's not only for this week, it's a 365 days continuous conversation. So feel free to engage on our Twitter, on our Facebook. It is not a once-off. As I've indicated, we have just started a journey. The conversation will continue every now and then. And indeed, when we call upon yourselves, always be readily available to come in. The idea is to ensure that we create a safer online space for our children, and also a safer physical space where our children can thrive. A girl child can walk at any time of the day without fearing if she will make it home or not. So indeed, I want to take this opportunity to say to you all, thank you so much. You have been such a wonderful guest, and I've enjoyed interacting with yourself. And I believe that we are going to have this conversation continuously. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. We are done for
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.